so much, and welcome to Mark Stills in Town, which this week, extraordinarily enough, comes from a cave in the middle of the rock of Gibraltar. And this is the furthest I've ever been with this show, and it is so exciting at last to get away to lovely Spain. That is the only possible way of opening that show. No, I'm only joking, Gibraltar. I don't mean to be insensitive at all. Please let me introduce myself properly and politely. Bienvenidos a Mark Stills. Que esta semana ha venido a exótico Gibraltar, el sitio más lejano en el que he estado con este show. Es tan emocionante venir hasta España. It does actually say on the script, it is possible that the show ends there. And then the rest of the show will be 28 minutes of booing. Now, one of the first things that you can't help noticing when you come to this country of Gibraltar is it is tiny. Now, obviously, if you're going to try and squeeze a whole country into an area that's only 2 miles long, it makes perfect sense to choose somewhere where 90% of the place is an uninhabitable cliff face. The next thing is, while you love to embrace the continental Mediterranean culture, if you look carefully around Gibraltar, you can still spot the odd hint of Britishness. There are British phone boxes and British policemen and 40 cafes and pubs with huge boards that say, British fish and chips. In case you're worried, they'll give you some horrible foreign fish with a herb on it. And there's a chocolate shop that says, British chocolate! Because who wants chocolate from Europe? What do they know about chocolate? And you expect the chemist to go, we sell British anusole! You don't want nothing Spanish going up there! And the whole country, at first glance, can appear to be like one long duty-free shop. In the shop windows, there are barrels of vodka for 60 pence, and boxes of 8,000 fags with a sign on them saying, just take them, we don't want money. They just take up space, just take. And barrels of perfume for £1, so you die at 42 but smell gorgeous. So it's a wonderfully unique country that from one end to the other, I could do the whole country in one sentence. It goes lighthouse, mosque, cannon, rock, monkeys, cannon, fort, pub, duty-free shop, cannon, duty-free shop, cannon, runway, high street, other bit of runway, Spain. Even so, the first thing that strikes you here is the views from Gibraltar are stunningly beautiful, because once you're up the hill, you can see Spain, which is really nice. Gibraltar is, of course, tied with Britain, but not to the Britain that British people live in. When someone who's been brought up here goes to Britain, they must think, I don't understand, I've been here 3 hours, not a single aeroplane has crossed the high street. Someone who worked here told me I lived in La Linea across the border. If late for work, you could lie and say a jump jet was crossing the street, you had to wait. There's all sorts of things that are different. One thing I love here, though, is a lot of the Britain that you're attached to, like the telephone boxes and the British bobbies, is a Britain from the 1970s that doesn't really exist anymore. Those phone boxes have gone. The big English breakfast, you don't get so much in England now. Lots of the pubs you have here in England, they'd have shut. And you're going to get such a shock when you find out what happened to Rolf Harris. Charm of Gibraltar. It's like a slightly warped England from 38 years ago. You can still buy Spam here. You dip chips in cocktail sauce as if you're thinking, it's pink, it must be exotic. It's so 1970s. There's a dummy in the Glasshouse T-shirt printing shop that everyone loves because it has huge breasts. Blokes say things like, I wouldn't mind sailing between them pillars of Hercules. And there's some quaint customs here that are from the 1870s, such as the amount of tax you pay. Although you don't really pay tax, it's more of a tip, isn't it? We leave the government £10 a year, just as a gesture of goodwill. But Gibraltar is most famous for being a rock, and right now we happen to be in a theatre in the caves in the middle of the Rock of Gibraltar. Top that question time. The caves are... This is honestly, I've been doing this job quite a while. This is the first time I have ever been unable to get into the dressing room because of monkeys. It is extraordinary, and I'll talk to someone later about these caves and the rock, because it does cover almost all the country, the Rock of Gibraltar. That's about 2 miles long, with 30,000 people living here, surrounded on 3 sides by Spain and on the 4th by sea, which is why everybody has made sure over the years the relations with Spain are always friendly and full of good spirits. On both sides, the motto seems to be nothing's too much trouble for our neighbours. For example, it seems the guards at the border with Spain frequently go out of their way to make sure hundreds of you spend a delightful 4 hours enjoying the wonderful view of the back of the airport without moving an inch. The drip just comes straight up. I'm 5% stalactite now. Now, I'd like to introduce someone speaking in this sort of half Spanish, half Englishy sort of language. I'd love you sort of hear conversations with people are saying things like, the sunset there is colour of love, bellissimo, but a leaking doy, careful of getting squashed by plane in the high street, del reloj. Der Mateo no tiene cuerdo, you can walk up rock, but watch the bleeding monkeys, muchas mono, they're right pain in the arse, steal your twigs if you're not careful. Norma de la lata del mañana, uno bueno deos, begin with full English breakfast with egg, chips, bacon, black pudding, fried slice, dos grando te, por favor. I went over the border, I went over there last night into Spain. It's so weird. You walk across the runway. This isn't normal Gibraltar. You have to stand there, look right, look left, look right again, check there's no EasyJet planes coming, flash your passport, then there's all bars with people going, bienvenidos a España, and you order some tapas, and it's like you've gone through the back of a wardrobe into another world. 5 minutes ago, I was next to a bloke going, pour to John Smith's and some British cheese and onion crisps, please, mate. If you come onto the runway in a plane rather than walking across it, when you get it, it's a fun landing, isn't it? It's slightly alarming before you set off. If you look up Gibraltar runway on the internet, the 2 things that come up are 7 most extreme airports and world's scariest runways. So as you come into land, you hear, this is your captain speaking. We're currently descending into Gibraltar Airport. We'll be scraping against the side of the mountain. You may feel the odd bump. Then we'll be lost in the mist for a minute. Then we go upside down before landing on a runway that's around half the length of the plane. And you like it like that. The tourist brochures say things like, you'll love the terrifying approach to the airport. The never to be forgotten fun of desperately ringing your loved ones. But now everything's confused, isn't it? Because the British people you so much want to be a part of have gone and turned you over because they voted to leave the EU. So the people of a country that likes to be more British than the British have said to the British, no, hang on, don't be that British. Or we might end up not being British. In general, though, the more that places went, we're British, fly the Union Jack and be proud, the more they voted to leave. And the more liberal and middle class they were, the more they voted to stay. Which technically makes Gibraltar now the most namby-pamby, politically correct, metrosexual place in the world.